good.
No, but
it's fine.
I forgot where I was going with this, but it's like, oh, that's right, and it's also kind of like, well, there's another topic that goes with it, with like housing and stuff. It's like gentrification as well, right?
Yeah,
Where
definitely.
It's like, there's like
it's
people, well, there's like white folks now wanting to move into like,
low income
communities and stuff like that, because guess what, like, yeah, it's like, so it's like taking new ways and different forms, and it's like always trying to like kick people out, and it's always like which people are being kicked out, and why are they being kicked out? It goes back to like, you know,
the whole thing. Yeah, it's all interconnected, and gentrification is a huge issue. Like this past weekend, celebrating my sister's birthday, I told a family member that I was moving to East LA, and they're like, but it's dangerous. And then I forgot for a split second that they are white.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's right. And I was like, no, it's getting heavily gentrified. I'm not for it.
Oh, that's real.
But it's like, at the same time, it's like, we kind of do need it. Like, it's not like, oh geez, I honestly don't want gentrification to happen at all, because I know what happens to like low income families. They're kicked out because they can't afford the rent prices anymore. There's no rent roof. There's no stable rent floor price. It just goes higher and higher and higher. There's no rent control. And so it's odd to these people who have wages to come in and say, hey, I want to live here. But it's kind of messed up. I'm going to invest more into the community and get it my way. And then it affects a lot of the other people, because then these new apartments are there and they cost this much. Yeah. But guess what? This old rusty apartment can cost that much too. And I'm not going to even renovate it. And I'm going to kick everybody out because they can't afford it. And so it's like, well, that's not good. Yeah. So at the same time, I'm like, but gentrification does have its positives, obviously. Cleaner communities, safer. That's what people, say. And it has been evident. Crime has gone down in East LA exponentially in certain parts of LA as well. But at the same time, we're having people move out, and it's not good. Our homeless are increasing as well. And so at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't know how to feel about gentrification. Yeah. I'm being really weird right now, and quote one of my favorite YouTubers, Tom Scott. It's just a really weird feeling. I should just quote him directly. I feel awkwardly sexual about this. And he says that when he's like, I don't know whether to say yes or to say no on this issue or this topic. So that's what he means by that. Okay. But just, quoting that, because that's how I feel. Like, it's like gentrification is a positive thing, but it's also a heavily negative thing. Yeah. And so we're like, we don't have to do this. And the only reason it happens is because of newer buildings, newer stuff, and then stuff increases, price increases, and people are kicked out. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm for the whole, like, let's better the community through investments and private investors investing to the community through new housing. But also, let's allow this housing to be available to the community. Like, they don't deserve to be living in the same place they're living in at, like, $1,200 a month. And there's, like, 5 people crammed in there with, like, 1 or 2 people working a minimum wage job. And then there's this other guy with the same apartment, but it's way nicer, and he's got a full-time job. Like, it's just not, like, I can see why. Like, it's like, okay, you can't really argue that because that guy's working hard and this family isn't. But if you're going to keep increasing the rent for the low-income family, it's just like, there's no need to do that. Like, if the apartment's valued at that price, leave it at that price.
No, yeah, I think me personally, I don't think there is any good in gentrification. Yeah. I don't think there is, because if, like you were saying, like, I think a lot about, like, my position as like a student, and, like, being able to afford like whatever, and like even like being like a higher education like institution or whatever, like right there I'm already granted privilege, right? And let's say I do get a job and it's just like, oh, I want to come back to live in Montebello, or want to come back to live in East LA or whatever. A lot of it is, I think about, is like, sure, we're coming back to the communities we come from, but also understanding how, like, we come back with privilege, and that privilege is being added more to, because we all have privileges in different ways, but it's like adding that other layer of privilege where, like, it's like being able to understand how, like, if I come back, like, to an extent, I will also be a gentrifier, because of, like, just being able to, like, have more income and being able to, like, raise the income for everyone. So personally, I don't think that I would, like, live in a community where I think I would have the possibility to gentrify, because of understanding, like, if we think about gentrification as being good, we have to think about why. who is it being good for? Because if it's good for you or if it's good for me, it's like, sure, but like we have certain advantages, but we also have to think about the people that live there and view gentrification as bad as a whole, because not only are people being kicked out, but it's like you're talking about like criminalization or like criminal activity coming down, but it's also like it's coming down because the police isn't criminalizing people because people of color are being kicked out of their own community. So it's like people of color are always going to be criminalized by the police, by the state, and it's like it lowers activity because these people are being kicked out. So like the criminal activity isn't being like dissolved, or it's not being erased. It's like actually just moving to another place, and it's following the people being kicked out. Yeah. So it's like the criminal activity is coming down because more people with wealth and more people with money are coming in, where like they're not being criminalized about shit. So it's like understanding that, and it's like investments and how you were talking about like different ways of investing, and I agree with you on that. It's like, but it's also like, what the fuck is investment to me? I don't know. I think about that a lot. It's like, what do people mean when they talk about investment? Because private companies have been displacing people from like their beginning of like, I don't know. When I think of private companies, I think of displacement. Yeah. Because even if we think about like private companies are very like global, right? Yeah. And when I think of private companies, I think of like indigenous communities and communities that have had resources, or like, that have land. And it doesn't have to be just from the US, but we can be talking about like Latin America. Yeah, we can be talking about South America. We can be talking about India and like, Africa, different places where like indigenous communities have land, but that land is being taken by private companies. Because private companies are building like dams, or building like infrastructure that is like taking these resources from the land and are privatizing it. Privatizing it and are selling it. While this land belongs to indigenous folks, and folks use it and have connection to the land, where they know how to preserve it and how to like continue like cultivating it. Yeah, definitely. And it's like, so I feel like there's a similar connection to that, where it's just like gentrification doesn't happen in cities, but it happens everywhere. And it's kind of like being able to connect that to like a global issue, global scale. Because I mean, these issues aren't just happening to people in the US. This is something that's happening to all parts of the world. And it's also like the same people that are being affected, the people that are being the most marginalized, that are being the most looked down upon, because again, we're going back to these dominant ideologies that perpetrate certain things, and it's just like, it's like perpetrating of like who's on the right and who's on the wrong about certain issues. And it's like, we got to think of why people are there in the first place, of why people are like in like low income communities. It's like because of like being overworked, not having like the documentation to be able to be able to participate in like labor that gives you enough money to be surviving in like higher things. So it's like being able to understand that, where it's like, I don't know if like how to explain it, but it's kind of like people are there for a reason, and being able to understand the issues that go behind that it's a lot. And I don't know, I don't know, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so that's an eye opener.
I mean,
no,
and like there's so much that I'm saying that it's also very broad. It's like issues that you can also like look into, where I'm not being specific about things, because I'm also learning. I'm also,
definitely, that's the point of this.
But this is also like I also think of like myself as like not knowing shit, like
same.
That's like I don't know shit, like please tell me where I can learn what I can do better, because it's like being able to have that and also like being able to have conversation with people that are like willing to learn.
Oh, definitely.
I feel like people are very like aggressive, where just like like fuck you, like you don't know what's right and you don't know what's wrong, but it's also like But if there's people that are trying to learn, bro, give them a chance. Let them breathe for you didn't start from like knowing everything. You feel me? It's like, people start from somewhere.
Definitely.
Don't trip, But it's like it's the intention behind it. It's the intention of people that are there. Where just like if they're not actively trying to like rebuttal or like be racist to you or whatever, then it's like, then don't trip. We're all here to like fucking learn. I don't know.
Just don't bash the other guy for trying.
No, for real.
No, definitely, I agree with you. Yeah, I got bashed a lot, and I still do. Even it's like, wow, all right, I guess. But yeah, no, it's true. When you put it that way, it's like,
if you're willing to learn.
Yeah, it's like, no, definitely. I'm like, I could definitely see your arguments. Like, no, you can see it all over the world. My parents are back in Guatemala, where they went back, and they're like, wow, it looks nicer. But I'm like, Yeah, but what was there? Like, was there more commercials? Like, yeah, they say in Spanish, there was a lot more commercial, like, infrastructure and sponsors and private companies that are now there. And it's like, I wonder why.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I thought gentrification was a U.S. issue, but now it's a Latin American issue. It's a Southern, it's an all around thing.
Yeah, it's just in different ways.
In different ways, it's accepted or it's molded in different ways, or it's approached a different way, and it's like, or it just molds together with whatever's going on.
It's just displacement. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird. Or the reason they have gentrification in one neighborhood is because everybody left already. They were like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm old. I'm retiring. I'm bouncing out. And so when these houses became empty and these lands became empty, people would be like, it's up for sale. And the young generation is not going to buy it. They're going to want to rent or whatever. And they said, okay, you know what? We'll just buy it. We'll sell it to investors, and investors will turn these into like McDonald's or stores or major, commercials where people can go and whatever. And so I think that's how gentrification got approached in Guatemala, was like there was a displacement of people because people were no longer living in those communities.
And we have to ask, like, why weren't they?
Yeah, why weren't they? Yeah, and I wouldn't know because I was like, I don't listen to their politics. But
no, but Guatemala has a history.
You
should look into it. There's a lot.
And it is like my dad will try to keep me up to date, and I'm just like, dude, this is too much information. Yeah. And he's like, I struggle with keeping up with it. Because there's no I can't get information to it. Like when we look up information on the web, it's like the U.S. viewpoint on it. It's like I want to see my country's viewpoint, and even if I tried, I don't even have access to it because we don't have internet access. Like our internet access covers the entire world, but it's like the U.S. has its own Amazon website.
That's real.
The U.K. has its own Amazon website. Because they sell different products than we do. So the same thing will be applied to internet, where it's like I'm able to access certain websites. I can't access everything around the world. That's just impossible.
Yeah.
In order to do that, I'd have to be in Guatemala geography-wise, or just try to get access to it through another website. And it's like a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so it's like you can get access to other websites across the world, obviously, but it takes a while to find them because U.S. prioritizes the websites that are in the U.S. That cover the politics in a different country. So if you try to see the other perspective, it's really hard. And it's just extremely hard. And so when I'm covering certain politics from Guatemala, it's like, I don't even know what's going on. The only way I can listen through these news is either Spanish media, and I can barely, listen to Spanish media because it's hard to listen into it. Like, yeah, I can listen to it, but there's only snippets on it online. I can't watch the entire news feed online. It's just impossible. So I can only see snippets on YouTube, snippets here and there, and try to catch up as best as I can. But usually, it's an issue. So I try my best with Guatemala's history. I know the history of it. I know where we are culturally, and I know where we are. Or the new generation's spearheading a lot of it, and they're kind of getting, from what my dad said, he's like they're kind of getting like demotivated.
Demotivated?
Yeah, because the new generation's starting to see this corruption that the old generation had, and it's like we're trying to keep up at this level that the rest of the world's at, and we just can't.
Yeah.
And why? Because those positions are not filled up by the younger generation, or the younger generation isn't standing up. Like over here, it's like we have a movement, everyone gets behind it. In Guatemala, there's a movement, but it's not well known. From what I've heard or from what I've been told, it's not really pushed forward. It's not really like, yeah, let's do it. It's mostly older people telling the younger generation, hey, do this and it'll turn out that way, and that's what we should do because it's for the best of the population or whatever. Or just corruption through sponsorships. And so it's really hard for the younger generation to think on their own per se. And it's not because it's because they were told to, or just because they can't. It's just that they're unable to reach that level because they were never exposed to it. It's kind of like the silent generation in the U.S. where they're just like, defeat the machine, defeat the machine within the machine. Like we have to be a part of the machine in order to take it down. And just like that doesn't. No, it's it's kind of like whoa. But a lot of my cousins and stuff, they're starting to realize, no, we can't do that anymore. We can't keep our mentality on that. We have to be like, let's learn different languages. Let's learn different perspectives. Let's see what else we can adapt to, and then apply it to the situation we're currently in, because we can't keep living in this current situation. And it's really weird. Yeah, that's all I know from what my dad's told me, from what I've heard on TV. through
That's dope.
una visión.
No, yeah, I mean,
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you brought up a good point, and it's like also like the way we have access to different kind of websites and different kind of information, because at the same time it's like, even though we think we have we're able to access different things, and but we are able to different access different things and stuff like that, but it's like also like there's definitely filters within like the internet that we don't think about, and there's like an ideology being pushed through the internet, and it's like different kinds of like, because again, the internet is owned by corporations where they push in their own ideologies and stuff like that. But again, also, there's like also I don't know if you've been keeping up, but there's also, I've read article titles because I haven't really looked into these articles. But there's definitely been articles where it's just like Facebook taking your data or whatever, or like Google like tracking and stuff like that. And it's like the information we're exposed in mainstream media, it's obviously filtered, and it's filtered to push certain things, right? Yeah. And certain ideologies. So it's not only the U.S., but it's like in any country. In any country, there's always going to be the dominant ideology that is being pushed through their media. Yeah. And also like the way we navigate the internet is also very interesting, because I was just like recently like listening to not a podcast, but a lecture talking about counterterrorism. Yeah. And how the United States uses like the information they gather from like people searching stuff on the internet, or like their cell phone and tracking and all of that, to profile people that are being considered as terrorists, but they're not like. But then again, these people are being profiled from like their communications, or like their associations to certain things that don't necessarily make them terrorists, but it's just like sort of like affiliating with like a certain religion, or like sending money back to their country from like a certain country. And it's like the U.S. Profiles people that do that from like certain countries and certain communities, where it's just like they target them as terrorists without having like
actual evidence to
back it up, that it's like actual like actually trying to like whatever, like do whatever to this country. It's more like just profiling, and they use that information through the internet. But then again, you brought up that good point of like the way we communicate, and the way the internet, and just like how it's very centered to one thing, where I've noticed that populations everywhere around the world, especially communities that are being marginalized, they have their own system of communication, where they're able to inform their communities through a media autonomous from like big corporations, from the mainstream. So what comes to mind is like this movement in Honduras that has to do with this indigenous community that was being led by Berta Cáceres. I don't know if you've heard of Berta Cáceres.
No, I shouldn't.
No, but like there's this movement in Honduras that has to do with like preserving, again going back to preserving land and preserving resources, and this private company is like coming in and building infrastructure and building dams that again they want to privatize these resources. And Berta Cáceres co-founded this organization called COPIN. And what COPIN does in order to communicate with the community, what is actually going on with their community, because again the mainstream is going to tell you it's going something, but it's going to do. The mainstream is owned by these private corporations
that they're going to filter whatever. Right?
Yeah, they're going to tell you really the ideology of these private companies that is benefiting these private companies, that isn't benefiting these communities.
That's
true.
So
it's like even the media is like being owned by private companies. So this information that's being given to you is being given to you because this is what these private companies want you to think, or want you to tell you what's right.
That's true. Yeah,
and that benefits them. So this COPIN. So COPIN, they made their own system of communication, and it was through the radio. And through the radio, where they're able to like play music, and they're like, you're tuning into like COPIN radio or whatever, and today in like the community, like this and this is happening, and the advancement of like
so it's open media, so it's like not filtered.
It's I mean it's still filtered. It's filtered like every media is filtered, and every media is biased. That's true. But like in this way, like you're getting the different perspective, where you're like understanding the perspective that you're a part of, because it's like people from their own community that are providing you these resources.
Oh, okay, I see.
I mean, that are providing you this information instead of like mainstream media, where it's like they have no involvement in the community besides like trying to take it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's like also like understanding your position and understanding like you gotta understand where like this information is coming from, and it's like, why are they pushing this information to me? Like, what's the purpose of this information? And who is it coming from? That's important to think about too. So it's like, is it a reliable source? Is it a reliable source to you? It's like thinking of Fox News. It's like, who is it reliable to, and like, who is it benefiting? Like, what are you trying to push through that ideology? CNN, and it's like all these different companies.
Okay,
you know?
all right, I see. Okay,
So
I
it's
get
like,
you. So it's like the perspective of the community, from the community, but it's up to you whether you want to like be like, oh, okay, cool, I can do something about it now.
Yeah.
Or just be a part of it, or like, I didn't know my community was a part of this. Now I want to be involved. In a sense, yeah, I get you.
But for the most part, it's like people are tuning in because they know what is being like, what's at risk, or what's being at. So I don't know. It just comes back to that what I was telling you. It's just like these media companies are owned by other things. It's like it's like this is something I'm learning in like one of my sociology classes. It's like companies have like a foot in everything.
Yeah.
Which like thinking about McDonald's. Like McDonald's isn't just a restaurant. It's like it has its foot in like basketball tournaments. It has its foot in like fucking scholarships and things like that. You know, it's like
it's got its little fingers and everything.
It's the same thing with like a bunch of corporations. Yeah. Where, like they own things you didn't know they own. Like Disney owns ESPN. Like what the fuck? I did not know that. You know? It's like,
definitely. Yeah. It's just like, oh.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, that's true. It's like a huge thing. Yeah. You want to take a break?
Yeah, I'm down.
All right, cool. So we're gonna take a break. Through the magic of breaks, it's gonna be like, oh no.